What did your partner do while doing it that ruined it for you? Story 1. I told my ex that I liked it when guys made noise during intercourse because it feels weird when he's completely silent. So he made noise for me. It was high-pitched and quick moans. Turns out, he only ever watched lesbian explicit videos, so he made the noises he'd heard. I never asked him to make noise again and in fact, encouraged silence. Story 2. On one occasion the significant other was going to town. He was definitely knocking the bottom out and it was taking a while for him to finish. When he finally came, I said, "Oh, thank God." I said it out loud but also much louder and more enthusiastically than I meant to. Story 3. Put the protection on for me and pinched the reservoir tip like you're supposed to. Then thought it'd be cute to snap it back like a rubber band. Story 4. In the middle of doing the do, she started crying and said, "I have to learn to enjoy this or no one will ever love me." Another hookup, we were going at it and she looks me in the eye and asks if I was almost done yet because she was getting bored. Story 5. When we were doing it she asked me, "Whose puss is that?" so many times that she actually started to convince me that I didn't have any idea whose puss it was. I got distracted. The first few times she said it, I said with utter confidence that it was indeed my puss and I did with it as I pleased. But after many, many more times asking the necessary and actually demanding an answer from me, I started to think that not only was it not mine, but it might not have been hers either and perhaps was a loner or she maybe pilfered it. Definitely just pulled me out of the moment. Story 6. Had an ex-queef one time during the deed. She looked me right in the eyes and said in a sexy tone, "She's talking to you." I laughed so hard about that one for years. Story 7. I went to this girl's house when I was around 19 and we started having fun on the living room couch when suddenly I heard banging. Turns out she locked her little brother in the bathroom so she and I could bang. He was crying and yelling in Korean. Completely killed the mood. Story 8. Whenever she queefs. It doesn't bother me a bit and normally I just ignore it and keep doing my thing. But for some reason it embarrasses her to no end and she'll go red-faced and start crying. Definitely kills it for us both. I keep trying to tell her that it's nothing to worry about, but it's just not getting through. Story 9. I'm terrible at talking during intercourse, I really try to avoid it. If she's into it and wants to talk, I'm all for it. But every time I have a partner that asks me to do it, I always feel silly. One of my exes mostly just wanted me to say things that made her feel desired, like telling her she's hot, which I can handle. But I've had several women ask out of nowhere, "What do you want?" And I'm always like, "To totally screw you." Story 10. Wasn't her fault but killed the mood nonetheless. I was getting head and her nose ring got caught in my zipper. So she stuck with my pecker in her mouth trying to get loose. Say, "My nose ring is caught on your zipper." Now say it with a hot dog in your mouth. I couldn't stop laughing and she eventually started laughing too. It took forever to get her free. Story 11. This was after making love. My husband lasted a long time, much longer than ever before. He seemed so pleased with himself and asked if I knew how he did it. I said no and asked how. I thought about squirrels. I didn't do it with him for a month because that was all I could think about. Story 12. I was the partner who ruined it in this case. During the winter months, I get nosebleeds all the time because my veins suck. We started sexy time and while giving the oral business it started running down my nose, which kinda ruined the mood. Me bleeding on her nether region wasn't a turn on for any of us. Story 13. My girl and I were pretty young and in high school still. We were alone at her parents' place, so I decided to make a move and start kissing her. I had her on her back and went to kiss her neck. She loved it but knew I was trying to get her going, but she doesn't like to do stuff in their house. She responds to my kissing with, "Oh you little turd," in a really turned on and breathy moan. I was simultaneously laughing my ass off and soft as jelly after that. Story 14. She was super loud and kept saying I'm big. I have an extremely average tool. When she went down on me she was super aggressive and she didn't really listen to me when I told her I didn't really like the whole gag on the schlong thing. After a bit I told her I was too drunk to get off. Extremely average is just like the perfectly normal beast from the restaurant at the end of the universe. It might be the most average wiener of all wieners in the world, but it still makes a delicious sandwich. Story 15. An ex said those immortal words, "Screw me daddy, make mommy jealous." Everything died at that very moment. My wiener retreated so far into my body it took a week to coax it out. I had to sit to even pee. Story 16. I told him I needed to fart to warn him, and he said in a dirty talk voice, "Fart for me, baby." He explained he didn't mean to say that in a sexy way, just trying to say it's okay to toot. I was red-faced as hell and had to immediately get off. If you've gotten this far and enjoying the content, please leave a comment of your own story. We'd love to make a video of them in the future. Story 17. She accidentally moved the shower knob from a nice and hot to hell for people who drive slowly in the left lane hot. I screamed first and she quickly followed with a respectable screech of her own while we scrambled to shut the water. No more sexy time was had that day. Today we laugh about it though, which is nice. Story 18. I hid party poppers all over my bed. The missus comes over, we get into it, and started doing the deed. I start to faint climax and blew my party popper all up her back. It was glorious. Needless to say I wasn't allowed to finish. Story 19. She accidentally pooped on me during sexy time and then broke up with me the next day saying she couldn't look me in the eye anymore. Crappy situation all round. Story 20. Technically it was me that ruined it, but I guess her movements contributed. She liked some light spanking during the act and would ask me to spank her harder when she was close. Usually we did the spanking as part of a doggy-style configuration. Well, one time she was on top riding and asked me to spank her. She commented that she really liked the way that I could spank different parts of her buttocks in this position, so I started moving my slaps around to different areas. She was getting close and loud, so I decided to give her a really, really hard smack on the butt. I missed her and slapped myself squarely in the balls. It was not a fun time. Story 21. I was a few months into a relationship with my now husband, and while I was giving him the oral business, he let out a very tiny fart. I was going to be mature and ignore it because farts happen. However, it began to smell so bad, neither one of us could ignore it. I started laughing and couldn't stop for the next 10 to 15 minutes. Killed the mood, but at least we laughed about it. Story 22. This one was my fault, but I couldn't resist. She had told me about a dream she had where I was touching her and she was saying, "Yes, give me those ice cream fingers. I want your ice cream fingers." We both had a good laugh and then forgot about it and moved on with our lives. Several days later, we were getting frisky and she said something like, "Oh yes, don't stop." So I leaned down close to her, all sexy, and huskily whispered, "You like those ice cream fingers?" She burst out laughing and the mood was completely ruined, but it was so worth it. Story 23. Had a guy freak out on where to put his stuff. I told him it didn't matter because I was on birth control. He starts to panic, wiener in hand, squats down and finishes on the floor. That was the last time I spoke to him. Story 24. Many years ago, I was having crazy high school fun time with my crazy high school girlfriend on my parents' sofa during an extended lunch break. As I was approaching climax, she yells out, "Finish on me." Not one to disappoint, I pulled out and she reached down to quickly pull off the protection. She grabbed said contraceptive by the tip and yanked hard and fast, thinking the lube would allow a quick slip and slide off of me. Nope. It held strong and she began stretching it to about a half-mile in length. Due to some naturally occurring lubrication on that mighty Trojan, the tip slipped from between her fingers and it snapped back to the head of my own mighty member. The only noise louder than the sonic boom created by its return speed was the wailing cry I let out that left the neighborhood dogs howling for hours. I did not return to school that day as I was ruined. Story 25. When I was 18, my 22-year-old girlfriend started shaking during the deed this one time. At first I thought to myself, "Damn, I'm good," but then I realized she was having a seizure. Her muscles were convulsing and I ended up finishing as I tried to pull out. So there I was cradling the head of my girlfriend who I just found out was epileptic while she was covered in my fluids and I was trying to make sure she didn't swallow her tongue. Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed this video, please hit the like button and subscribe to Thread Talk for more content like this. Also, don't forget to turn on notifications so you never miss out. Have a dope day and we'll see you in the next video. Cheers!